Hi, I'm Gareth Fenley. I'm a social worker helping other social workers to pass licensing exams. Like yourself, I went to grad school, got my master's degree, took the licensing exam, passed it, went on to a career doing social work. I worked in hospitals and clinics, I worked in healthcare, I worked in psychiatry, I did education. I traveled to 16 different states training healthcare professionals. And guess what happened? Well, I went through some different job changes, and then in 2020, COVID occurred. I had a little side job I'd been doing on the side, tutoring people on Zoom, this brand new thing called Zoom. Suddenly, with COVID, everyone learned how to use Zoom, and I made this my full-time job. I've been tutoring full-time online on Zoom since 2020. I've gotten very experienced at it, and I'd like to say very good at it. I now have a 92% success rate of the students who recently studied with me and went on to take their exam. They pass at a 92% rate. That is something I'm very proud of, and it means a lot to me to help people open this huge, heavy gate that the exam is a barrier. The exam is a big, heavy gate that is blocking so many thousands of social workers from moving forward into the big, broad field of social work that lies beyond the gate. And I'm here to bring the key and to help you get through that gate. Basically, to pass this exam, you need three things. You need the knowledge, you need the skills, and you need the mentality to pass. Remember, that's our objective, that's our goal, is to pass the exam. It's not to be perfect. You don't need to get a score of 140. You don't need to get a score of 120. You only need to get a score that is just at or above the pass point for the exam you'll be taking. And somewhat maddeningly, you can't predict exactly what that pass point is going to be in advance. But we know it's going to be somewhere around 100 points, about 100 questions that you'll need to answer correctly out of 150 scored questions. And then there are those mysterious 20 pilot questions that they're out there just to be tested, and there's no score attributed to those 20 items. So you need to get about 100 questions correctly answered, and you'll pass. The knowledge you need, the knowledge is the knowledge of social work, the knowledge of the code of ethics, the knowledge of Erickson's stages of psychosocial development, the knowledge of old Dr. Freud's ideas about the ego and the id and the superego, and the knowledge of different kinds of interventions and different types of assessment techniques we use as social workers. All that knowledge that you learned in school and that you are applying in your work, that is the knowledge you need of how to be a social worker. But the test requires more than just the knowledge of how to be a social worker. Number two, it requires skills. It requires specific skills that have to do with taking a 170 question timed exam in a high security test center under those high security conditions. The skills you need to pick the right answers on multiple choice questions on a computer have nothing to do with the skills you need to be a great social worker. What has to do with interacting with people, often on a micro level, one-on-one, sometimes on a macro level, talking to or relating to and helping plan for big groups of people, such as agencies, school districts, entire communities. So social workers can be working on both a micro or a macro level, but we're always sensitive to both the person and environment. And let me tell you, the test center is not an environment that is similar to almost any social work setting you could dream up. So the skills you need to pass the exam have to do with being able to size up those questions, pick the right answer at a rate that is high enough to pass. We do not need that perfect score. We only need to pass, which is approximately to get about 70% of the questions correct. Number 3, the mentality you need to pass this exam. The mentality you need is a calm and curious, optimistic confidence that will sustain you for at least 4 hours in that test center. The exam is a performance. It's a performance like a big day at the Olympics for elite athletes. The exam is a performance where you're going to sit down in a test center, do your best, and then be graded. So the mentality that we need to be able to bring into the exam is that calm resilience, and especially the ability to cope with situations where you just don't know the answer. There will be words on the exam that are not familiar to you. There will be concepts that are not familiar to you. Why? It's because the field of social work is so broad and complex. There are so many things you can do in this career as a social worker. It's not possible to know every fact that is going to come into play on this exam. So we're going to have to be confident and calm even when we have no clue about that particular question. We're going to have to be able to make a wise guess and move on, and do so throughout the exam until reaching the end and seeing that word on the screen, pass. I want you to see that word on the screen, pass, P-A-S-S, pass. I want that for you. I want you to be able to pass this social work exam, and I'm here to help you, and I hope that you will contact me, follow up. I think there's a button that you have activated on my website that sent me an email, and I will get in touch with you to follow up and see whether there's ways I can help you in your progress toward that pass. And I hope to see you and talk with you soon on Zoom. Thanks for listening.